Hey guys, back with another video. Our topic is
Dating culture. So, how do you feel about dating culture nowadays?
I feel like there's a lot of pros and cons to it, in a
Mhm.
sense of couples and how guys treat girls with the expectations.
Right. And what would the expectations be?
For me, what I've noticed and for myself, and I do want to reiterate, we're not saying this is all guys in all relationships. We're just saying it based off of experiences of ourselves and others, because I don't want people to assume that we're grouping one gender in a whole category when we're just basing it off of our opinions from the
Mhm.
experiences, that we've had. But I would say I feel like a lot of it is more of a hookup culture than
Mhm.
it is actually, dating.
Right, because I feel like a lot of people are just together just to have sex, and then like when it's not good no more, they break up and they go find somebody else.
Yes, because I feel like that's what it's so normalized. Like, don't you feel like in today's world we normalize, well, just date to date, like, and that's fine if people want to do that, but then that leaves the people who are looking for something serious
Mm.
find it, really hard because people are just dating to date or dating because it's convenient sex.
Right, and that's another thing is like people that actually want it to work in the long run. I feel like dating culture nowadays is like, date for a little bit, break up, get with somebody else. It really starts a bad habit, like kind of like teaching divorce. So, like, if the marriage isn't, you know, puppy love and sprinkles, they can just get divorced like it's nothing.
Yes, 100%. And I do notice as like the younger generation, people start to get out more and date. I 100% agree with it's very rare to find the long lasting relationships or the people that, well, let's work through it, let's try to power through it. And not everything is something to work through. Sometimes people fizzle out, that's natural. But a lot of it is set the expectation of, just date for a little bit. It's convenient, it's convenient sex. And if you don't like
Hmm.
them, just break up and move on. And so, like, I feel like that's not teaching what true love is. And it's kind of setting that standard for younger people that, oh, it's okay, just hook up with them, no big deal. If you date, it's not serious.
Right. And then, like, another thing that kind of reminds me of, like, people expecting it to be like a fairy tale or whatever the whole time. But I don't believe like soulmates are found, they're made. Like you have to wake up and choose them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, they may do this, that, and the third, but I still, love them anyway.
Yeah, and honestly, that is a good point because, I am a big believer in love, but I do agree with, you know, sometimes soulmates are just made that way in a sense of you power through the hard times and the good. It's not, oh, when things get rocky, I'm out, bye.
Mhm.
You kind of just you each pull the weight together. And that's what I feel like reverting back to the hookup culture in our dating world today is, oh, you're not giving me sex? Bye. Not, okay, well, what's the reason? Is, maybe I'm not doing enough to please you, because I do think not all, but there is a good amount of guys that they just want to get off and dip. They don't
Mhm.
care about the woman, they don't care who they're pleasing. It's more of, let me get my fix and I'm out.
If that's the mindset, do you think he's really pleasing them?
Exactly. And that's probably why there's sexual issues and things like that within the relationship because they're not in it for the right reasons. They're looking for a quick hookup, but it's convenient to just be in a relationship. But I also feel like a lot of people aren't straight up. You
Mm,
know, like if you
no,
ever
for
got the
real.
feeling, yes, of, oh, I just want to hook up, but I'm going to still play the part as a boyfriend, but then I'm going to cheat on you. So I'm like, well, I don't understand what's the point of being in a relationship. Just be honest and straight up.
Yeah, and like the saddest examples of that I see is when they have kids together and like since it's still convenient, they stay with them. And so like it's just a very unhappy environment.
No, 100%. And that's the hardest too. I feel like when you have kids, especially if you notice, and I've noticed from I've talked to, people and stuff who's had kids, but they also were together at a very young age.
Mm,
And so it's really, really hard when you have spent pretty much your childhood through adulthood with somebody to leave.
yeah. But like on top of that, it's kind of like stems off of that, but like nowadays guys are like, "Well, what do you provide? What do you bring to the table?" You know? And I just find it strange because the way I grew up, like men were the providers and like, show chivalry, sorry, and stuff like that. And now they're like, we want flowers.
Buy me
Give me flowers,
chocolate.
bitch.
Pick me up. No, 100%. That's how I grew up. Like, we were a very traditional household. My dad was the provider for everything. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I get, like, in nowadays the economy, it's really hard to do that. But, that's how I grew up. My dad forked all the bills, paid everything, did the manly stuff in a sense of, you know, something was broken in the house. He fixed it. He did that. And my mom was more like the cooking and cleaning, and she would take us around to different sports lessons and things like that. So I grew up, very traditional household, and my dad always said, the man should take care of you. The man should, be the provider in the house. And, that's how I lived, my whole life. So I just programmed that into my head of, I feel like the man should be the one picking you up. The man, should be the one buying you flowers and being that provider for you.
Yeah, I heard this one thing and it's so crazy. I think it's funny because it's actually from Pitbull. But like no one, I know, but like no one else has explained it as well as he did. So like what a woman provides, you give her eggs, she gives you a baby, you give her ingredients, she gives you a meal, you give her a house, she makes it a home. What we bring to the table isn't something that's physical or tangible. It's the energy, it's the vibe.
No, 100%. And I don't care what people says. Being a mom is a full-time job. That is a full-time job. Dealing with kids or one kid even, if they're in sports and all these activities, it is a lot. And that's what people don't realize is being a mom is a full-time job.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, men are the providers and then the women are the nurturers and producers. Like literally that's how I grew up with it being like.
Yeah, and I also want to say, obviously we're working, women, we have full-time jobs and things like that. So, I'm not obviously against women who don't need that in their lives and don't want a man, want to be independent, want to make their own money, that is more
Go
power to
girl.
you. No, literally. I'm just, basing it off of dating that, dating that we see to this
Mhm.
day. And another thing I do want to mention is like you said, how chivalry. So I'm a big fan of Steve Harvey, and I love his
Mhm.
talk shows. And he said this quote a while, and it was about a woman who was still with the man, and he wasn't providing, he wasn't doing anything for her, but he, was wanting her to put out. And she, was just like, what's wrong with me? Like, I don't understand, and he was like, the reason why you're in this situation is, chivalry is no longer dead, it's just no longer required.
Mm.
That most women don't require that. They set the bar so low, people don't even have to duck under it, they're that low. So it's like, we chivalry isn't dead, it's just not required by people. When you go on a date, most women aren't looking at, okay, did he open my quarter for me, did he shut it, did he pull up my chair? And we might think, oh, that is too much, like he's doing all this. That is, to me, that is the bare minimum he can do, is open your car door, pull out your chair. If he can't do that, how can you possibly think he would be committed to you?
Right. I just think it's so crazy. And another thing a lot of people don't realize, just kind of stemming off of that, is how would I put this? Confidence does play a big role in this because how would I put it? I guess what you're acting like you attract. So I remember, I've been
Yep.
through therapy, I've been working on it. Yay. Anyway, so like all the guys that would come to me were like bottom of the barrel. They were a-holes, they cheated. It was it was wild. It was a wild time in my life. But like, working through therapy, I'm like, dang, I really didn't deserve that. I'm not gonna accept less than that. Or not less than that. I'm not gonna my standards will be higher than that, you know.
100%. And I feel like that's why a lot of people end up with, you know, disrespectful guys, is because, they're not setting the bar high. They're like, okay, well, this is what I think I can only get. This is what I think I can only deserve. And it's like, no, honey, you don't deserve that. You deserve better. And I feel like once somebody unlocks their, I'm hot, I know I have a good personality, I don't need to literally set the bar to my feet, then it's like, they start getting a little pickier. And I personally think being picky is not a problem.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's always, stipulations to that, where obviously if you're like, they have to have this hair color, this eye color, this skin color, that's like, obviously, okay, you're being way too dramatic about it. But I do think it's okay to have standards. I feel like in today's world, if you have standards, you're outcasted. How dare you,
Oh my
have.
gosh. No, because I swear to you, I told somebody that I wanted to do to have his own job, his own car, and his own place, right? And I was like, I want him to have a little ambition because I don't want him sleeping on me. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so I was told my standards were too high. I'm like, how are they too high? I have all of those things. I know they're enough to acquire.
That's
I'm
bare
not.
minimum.
That's literally just the flat
What? He
line.
has a job? Like,
Like, it's just it. I just thought it was so funny because I was like, I that's just three of them. This not a it's not a tall bar. So, I mean, I don't
That's
understand.
crazy. That's crazy.
uh,
Yeah, that honestly though, I feel like to me that's just crazy because not just you, but other people I've heard I'll be like, oh, so, well, they'll tell me about a bad experience, oh, I had this on today, this didn't work out, or he was expecting me to sleep with him, or I did sleep with him and he don't want commitment now. And I'm like, well, when you saw the signs, like, what were your standards? Like, were you kind of just like, oh, whatever? Or, and they're like, no, they're like, I have no standards. And I was like, well, there you go. If you
yeah,
don't have some type of standard, I feel like, and you're just willing to just date anybody, I mean, don't expect, you know, Mr. Hot with good personality who is out here working overtime at his fancy job. I mean, you kind of get the guys that don't want to commit, they don't have any motivation, and I feel like that's the norm now, though, is getting shunned for having any type of standard. People automatically take offense to it.
right. And I've heard this quote, and I thought it was so funny. Is if you don't have the self-esteem and confidence and stuff, it's like you don't go shopping when you're hungry, so why would you start looking for a relationship when you're desperate?
100%. I truly believe when you are actively looking, you will not find. I don't know what it is, but any time with anything in life, though, I feel like when I am consistently looking, I don't find what I want until just randomly something pops up.
Right.
And I feel like it helps to weed out the ones that, you're just setting your bar low just because you want to be with somebody. And that's the thing, circling back to what we were on is just dating to date, whether that's sex, just being lonely. Well, when you're dating to date for sex or because you're lonely, you're not worried about their personality.
Right. And it just kind of reminds me of like what I like to do if I think, maybe, this person's not for me or whatever. I think of, is this how I want him to be treating my kids? Or, like, you know what I'm saying? Could I see this person being the father to my kids? Because we in it for the long haul, it's gonna happen at some point.
No, 100%. I definitely think that before, any type of marriage talk or anything serious, look at it. I look at it this way. If you had kids, would you want your daughter or your son with that person? And if it is a no, cut it off. If you would
Hmm.
not set up your daughter or your son or even your best friend with that person, that's your answer right there.
Wait,
Because if you say no, I would never, um, then there's your answer. And maybe it could be obviously if, you know, we have two different types or something, I get that. But like in metaphorically sense.
I'm talking about the father to my kids. That's why I was like, what?
Oh,
Oh.
thank God.
My
Yeah,
goodness.
that would be kind of gross.
Yeah, what? Well,
What if you got so quiet there? I was like, dang, I feel like I'm speaking fast, but maybe I'm not.
it's okay. It's okay. But anyway, that's how I feel like dating should be. But, with today's dating culture, I just feel like it's really difficult to find.
Oh, it is. I do feel bad for my single ladies that are looking for, love because it's tough. It's definitely tough out here to find, genuine love. That's something that's gonna last, not when it gets hard, let's just leave. Someone that's, I say the best kind of love is ride or die.
Mm,
You're either with me or you're without me. Choose your battle. Because to me, true love is somebody that sticks with you through thick and thin. It doesn't matter, when times get hard, whatever the case may be, money issues or, you know, mental health. I feel like it's not talked about enough between relationships and just having that rock there, that person that, you know, grounds you, that understands, I get it, mental health is a big thing and I'm here for you. To me, that is what true love is for me.
right,
And in this world, I really feel like it's fading away with the dating and marriage scene.
right. I just feel like, another thing it's kind of been not talked about enough is having the hard conversations, just all of them. Because, like, if you don't have the hard conversations, how do you know?
No, 100%. I think if you can't openly talk to your partner, then you don't need to be with them.
Yeah,
Because for me, how do you expect if one day you end up married and you can't even go to them for an issue you're having, whether that's, you know, depression or you're having a lot of anxiety about something and you need that person there to understand, hey, I'm distant because I'm just going through something, but I want you to know that. And I feel like communication there isn't in relationships nowadays. It's kind of just like, let me be shady and hide this from you, when just be honest, and I
right,
know not everybody takes that well, to each their own, but for me, I've always been, just honest. If you don't want a relationship, that's fine. If you just want to hook up, be honest. I'm not going to be mad and yell and scream at you and get mad. I understand. I'm not made for everybody and not everybody's made for me.
is that
So
right?
all I ever wanted was just be straight up with me, tell it to my face.
Right. And I just feel like a lot of times also is they don't want to bring up the hard questions because what if they think less of me, or what if they, not want to be with me anymore if I start asking them the hard questions. And I'm just saying this now, and it may be hard to hear, but that means they're not the one.
100%. If you have to question the relationship multiple times in a sense of you can't openly express the way you feel, without them freaking out, I just don't I just don't see that ever being a relationship that lasts.
Right. But yeah.
Well, guys, I think that's it for today. Stay tuned for our next video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Bye.
Bye bye.